Hey friends, this is Kara Schulberg, and I'm super duper excited to talk to you today about this personal budgeting training program that I have developed for high school students. I'll be doing my student teaching at West Jefferson High School next semester, and I will be assisting in a consumer economics class, and I think this will be super for them. So, as it says on the slide, this instruction and practice would be for 2 class periods, and then the project scope would be the entire semester. Love my little circular face here. This is really fun with my little glasses with the shine on them. But this is very fun and exciting, and you can read the objectives here. I'll read them to you if you'd like. Students will discuss and decide on categories for personal budgets. Students will prepare a budget for themselves for the term. They will track their actual income and expenses and compare them to the projected budget. They will create ratios to examine income and expenses. So as I go through this training, I will do it as if I were teaching a live class. One of the first things that I would like to do for my classes is to have it's kind of a bell ringer, I suppose. It would just be a question on the board, something that they can discuss with their neighbor, and I will start a song playing and they will discuss this with their neighbors, and then as soon as the song is over, then we'll discuss it as class. So what is your opinion on personal budgeting? That's our question for the day. I've always found that it's fun to have some personal anecdotes or stories to kind of get the students' attention. So I was going to tell them on this slide it says, and I'm going to read the slides because sometimes we have students with difficulty reading, and that's great. So sometimes it helps if I can read to them. Many adults do not have the skill of personal budgeting. So when my husband and I were first married, we had a small budget. It's actually the budget that I'm going to show you in a minute, and we would use it, and we kind of built trust in our relationship when it came to money. We had some neighbors who had $20 extra left over at the end of their week on their food budget, and granted, this was 1996, and they spent it on candy. I always thought that was a great plan. And then I have another friend. When her husband started working, he went to a professional development conference, and they had an auction, and he decided to bid on this ceramic fish, and he won the fish, and it was $100. And once again, this was in the mid 90s, and that was a lot of money for this brand new little couple starting out. And when he got home with that fish, she was so furious. She said it was ugly and she hated it, and she wondered if this was how their marriage was going to be. But he was just going to buy things like ceramic fish without her permission and without her knowledge and without her approval. So no ceramic fish, but she would keep it on her piano just as a reminder not to do bad things with your money. So the next thing we would talk about is we would ask the students, do you have any experience with budgeting? Maybe a lot of the kids where I live have market animals that they do through FFA and 4-H, and so they might have a budget that they have for their animals. Or maybe they help their family's budget, or maybe they know what their families do for a budget. So this is going to be a really important thing that we can discuss. Next up, we will watch a video. It's only a minute and a half long. It's called What is a Budget? And it's put out by the government. And it's interesting. It's a story about a young man named Michael, and he's learning to budget. So I will leave these discussion questions up while they watch the video. We won't watch it right now because we don't have time, but I would ask, so I'll ask the questions. What were the steps in Michael's budget? He listed what he earned and what he spent. What was the negative thing that he noticed about his income expenses? He had a deficit. What things did he cut out of his spending? He cut out fast food and movie tickets. How much money did he have left over after cutting his expenses? And the students would reply, $50. And what did he do with the leftover money? He put $10 back into his budget for movie rentals in the month, and then he saved the rest. I think that videos are an excellent way to teach. That's the way that I learn the best, is through videos. I don't think that 2 short videos in 1 class period is too much. So we would watch the Rachel Cruz video. She's the daughter of Dave Ramsey, who is the budgeting king. And I would ask the students to take notes on the categories that they want to include in their own budgets. So here is a link to my personal blank spreadsheet set up for my budget. Basically, I won't go into it, but here's a link to it that we could click on if it were a hyperlink, and it would take us to the budget sheet that I made in 1996. It's just an Excel budget sheet. It has categories across the rows, or excuse me, across the columns, so across the X side, and then it has the dates down the Y side or the row side, and they can fill in the categories that they want, and they can have different transactions for each different day. Next up, we will do the example month. I actually have 2 example months. I've taken the actual transactions that I've had for my household, for my family. So all the fuel we've spent, all the fuel that we spent money on, all the groceries, all of the charitable contributions and gifts, the utilities, just everything. So it's kind of embarrassing, but I'll show it to the students. And here is a link to that page. So the instruction that I'm going to do is something I have kind of made up on myself. It's called Think Quad Share, which is like Think Pair Share, but everybody's going to be in groups of 4. And they'll open the link in the Google Classroom. We'll have one person to read the question, 2 people to decide what to do, and 1 person to record the transaction. So we'll do the first 4 transactions on the board. We have day 1, an income of $4,000, so that'll go in our income column. Also on day 1, we donate $400 to the church, so that'll go into the donations and gifts column. On day 3, we have $25 gift, and on day 4, we have some fuel. And some questions they might ask would be, what happened to day 2? We had a no spend day on day 2, so that's exciting. And then I will pass out cards to the class, and they will do their own transaction according to what is on the card. I think it's very important to have a question and answer period and a half-time period. So the students know the class is about half over, they can kind of gauge where they are and how much more work they need to do. I really love the idea of exit tickets. I think they're a great way to gauge how your students are doing. So for this exit ticket, I'm going to ask them to write down at least 4 of their personal budget categories. Can you tell that 4 is my favorite number? They'll write it down on a Post-it note and place it in the basket near the classroom door. I also like to have a rather simple homework assignment for them to get them talking with their parents and families about things. So I'll read this to you. Homework is to discuss with family members their feelings about and habits in budgeting, record generalized statements, and be prepared to share with them at the next class. So I think this will be really good to get them talking to their parents and families about budgets. And they can just do generalized things because we don't want to get into specifics. I don't want to know how much their parents' mortgage is. I just don't want to know that. Okay, this will be the first slide for the next day, and this will be what they'll discuss with their friends. What did I learn from talking to my parents about budgeting? And then we'll discuss it as a class. So I'd like to give them 15 minutes to finish up in groups if they didn't get it finished the day before. And then we will learn how to calculate ratios and watch another video about budgeting apps and discuss it. And then as the exit ticket, I would like them to calculate the ratio for the last month for my transactions. So, and they can put that in a basket by the door. So for our closing for day 2, I would like the students to spend a few minutes during each class period to track their income and expenses. They need to know that it's easiest to track income and expenses when they're incurred, and it's also helpful to keep your receipts. Like I was traveling tonight, so as soon as I hopped back in the car, after fueling up my car, I just entered the amount in my spreadsheet, and I'm ready to go. So for their homework on day 2, I would like them to research budgeting applications for their phone or devices. And I think this is going to be really helpful to them. I think that if they'll do it month after month, they will really appreciate it. I know my son is 22 years old, and a few years ago he decided to start budgeting. And now that he has a wife and has a life, he is really appreciative that I taught him to do this. So thanks so much for watching, everybody. This has been a really great project and a great class, and I've watched all your videos, And I really appreciate everything everybody's done. So thank you.